So if you are anything like me, I love to read the news. I find it fascinating, and I always get excited by different headlines. Sometimes I get really excited, like, is the 4-hour work week a thing? All sorts of experiments are going on around it. Another exciting headline is ChatGPT. If you've had any conversations with me, you will know that I am very interested in AI, artificial intelligence, and hacks that can happen, that we can all do with it. The end of the headline is why it will probably remain just a tool that does inefficient work more efficiently. Oh, darn. And I was looking for it to make all sorts of shortcuts, even more exciting. Or, sorry, too busy, why it's so hard to get together right now. That one was found in the Wall Street Journal. How to make up for lost time with friends and colleagues while reacclimating to our culture obsessed with busyness. The last one that I saw the other day from the Wall Street Journal was also, what do you do about bosses who ping you at all hours? No comment there.
I don't think so.
It was a joke. I know you don't do that.
On the other hand, there are rabbis who ping me any time that they want.
That may be more reflective about me than you.
But they will remain nameless.
I don't know what rabbi does. It seems like today we're talking lots about work. So I don't know if you paid attention to the readings for today, but they were also about, shocking, a 4-letter word, but in this case a good one. Begins with a W, ends with a K, work. How do we work and what do we think about it? What is our relationship to it? Are we able to actually structure it in ways that make sense? After all, living in this world that's after COVID, where prior to you had very strict schedules, maybe too strict. And then we all got the gift of being able to work from home. But we live in a society where there was less rigidity. But what was found out, I should say, is that we weren't able to necessarily always maintain boundaries, and work kind of started to permeate all sorts of aspects of our life. Sometimes we'll find that organizational leaders and managers, even in the corporate world, will be excited to exploit the fact that they can always get a hold of us, that it's easy to find us. And our society has this wonderful encouragement that if you are busy and you look busy, it's as if you somehow have a higher intrinsic value. Well, that idea is not so it's not so old, I should say. If you think about what we read about in the Torah portion of this week, it's a double part parsha, Vayikra and Pekudei. It's all about a description of work. How do you build the Mishkan? How do you build the tabernacle? It was from that listing of all of those types of work that the rabbis derived all the ways that we are forbidden from working on Shabbat. If you think about it, though, even further, everybody had a task to do, to build, to create, to participate. Bezalel, who was in charge of the project, he was the quintessential project manager, was held to such a high esteem because he was able to wrangle all of the people to find a task, get them on task to be able to accomplish. We can see that they got busy at work doing a job. We read further, these are the things that God has commanded you to do. On 6 days you may work, and the work may be done. But on the 7th day you shall have a Sabbath of complete rest, holy to God. We're even told that if we don't rest, what the consequence is. Anyone guess? What's the consequence of working on Shabbat in the Bible? Mot yamut. One will surely die. One of the things that we're taught, the idea is that God is going to smite you down. But what I really have come to understand is that if you don't give your body a chance to rest, the punishment is you're going to die anyway, just earlier. So maybe it's not necessarily a punishment from God. It's just a simple understanding that we're not designed to constantly work. When we think about what did God do to create creation, God worked 6 days. God was steadily building and building and building and building. And the very last day of creation, God rested. The pinnacle of creation, therefore, can perhaps be understood not in let there be light moments, or the creation of all the animals, or the creation of the Garden of Eden. Maybe the actual pinnacle of creation was the last day, Shabbat, the day of rest. That was, after all, what Heschel kind of hinted at in his book, The Sabbath, when he talked about Shabbat being a cathedral in time. He went on to say, to gain control of the world of space is certainly one of our tasks. The danger begins when in gaining power in the realm of space, we forfeit all aspirations in the realm of time. There is a realm of time where the goal is not to have, but to be, not to own, but to give, not to control, but to share, not to subdue, but to be in accord. Life goes wrong when the control of space, the acquisition of things of space, become our sole concern. Fascinating. When we think about it, and I'm sure you have, that when you have a lot of items, turns out you also have to exert a lot of effort to care for those items. Otherwise, they will break, they will get dusty, and they're not going to work. And you won't remember what you own. A lot of effort comes into play. There's also this push for needing to have the latest, hottest, coolest gadgets. We live in a capitalistic, consumerist society where we have to work to get money to be able to purchase things of status to take up space. In essence, busyness is one of our highest values. But that is not exactly what the only understanding or definition of work could mean in the Bible itself. Avodah, certainly as described in the verse in Hebrew, is work. We can understand it as a specific type of work of malacha, of tasks. That is, in fact, how modern Hebrew translates the word avodah. But another understanding comes from the biblical sense of that same word, to serve God, to worship God. Worship in the sanctuary of the temple was called avodah. And the avodah service, or prayer service, is the musaf, or the afternoon added service on Shabbat. But that avodah is complementary to the malacha, to the type of work that we do during the week. It's work of a different sort. It's work that develops our spiritual essence and being, one that attempts to put us in a deeper resonance with God. B.S. Jacobs notes in his classic Meditations on Torah that the Torah uses this term most frequent in relation to 3 topics: creation, prohibition of work on the Sabbath, and the construction of the tabernacle. They are all distinguished by the creative element in work. Human intelligence and creative capacity reflect the godly part of man. And so we understand that yes, we were commanded to work, and we were commanded to work in such a powerful way, but that work wasn't intended to kill us. It wasn't intended for us to work all the time. It was intended for us also to have time to develop who we are as spiritual entities. And in doing so, where we worked a certain amount of time, and part of that work was in doing something for the betterment of the community, and also taking some time to have a spiritual resonance or spiritual development, Moses receives a blessing. And what is this blessing? Well, Rashi suggests specifically that it's part of Psalm 90. Moses says to them, "May it be God's will that the divine presence abide in the work of your hands. And let the graciousness of the Lord our God be upon us, and may the work of our hands be established. Prosper it, the work of our hands." Indeed, it is the work of our hands which guide our being. It helps us attain that work-life juggle, that work-life balance that we all so want, while still attempting to care for those that we love and need to earn a living for. It's that fact that there must be balance that we all strive to obtain. And so it's my prayer that this week's Parsha remind us to continue to strive toward that balance. Even in retirement, I have found people find themselves striving to be busy because they were so busy before. But perhaps we should just spend time being with ourselves, learning to be comfortable with who we are, and doing the hard work of developing our spiritual sides. Shabbat Shalom.